Elizabeth.
Ooh, thank you. All right. Hello and welcome to Leave 2020 Behind, setting goals for a new year. No matter what this year has started to look like, the year is really ours to create. And that's something I think I've really learned from the people who are on this call, and particularly our guest today, Chris Turley. So just a little bit about me. I am Elizabeth Finlayson, CEO and lead coach of the Nonprofit Coach. My mission is to create a fairer, more equitable, and inclusive world filled with empathy and beauty. And my team and I do this by supporting our nonprofit clients with strategic planning, fundraising training, and support. And one of the ways we also do it is by having these free webinars twice a month. We really want to make sure that as much as possible, we're able to share resources with nonprofits and that they're able to be as effective as possible. The other thing we try to do with these is to create a community of people who are supporting each other, reaching out to each other. So definitely feel free to put stuff in the chat, offer things to each other. We want to make sure that this is an environment where people feel that it's inclusive and they're able to share their own thoughts and feelings. And with that, these are recorded and put on YouTube and on a website. So knowing that we're doing goal setting and we are going to be talking about personal and professional goals, feel free to share what feels relevant to share, and feel free not to share something that feels just very personal. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Turley, but I want to say a few things about goal setting and Chris Turley, which is that the reason we have these webinars is because of Chris Turley. Chris Turley is my business coach, and he runs a goals accountability group that he will talk about. But it's really through that I've been able to continue to expand my vision of what's possible in a year for myself, for my business, and for myself personally. And I think he does it in a way that is both pragmatic as well as inspirational. So that is the context for sharing about this person, Chris Turley, and I will let him say a little bit more about his background.
Okay, well, yeah, so I'm Chris Turley, and you know, I have my own architectural firm, Turley Architects. I've had it since the 1990s, and we do, you know, residential and commercial work of all sorts. I've got a lot of experience in large-scale, complex projects, and now I have my own, you know, smaller firm where I do everything from, you know, people's, you know, work on their existing homes to new construction. And I do have a specialty in the special needs area. That's it's something that's very dear to my heart. And so, so I have my own practice. It's current, it's active. That's how I make my money. About 20 years ago, I got involved with a goals group, a goals accountability group, up in the north suburbs, and was in that group for 13 years. And we held each other accountable and created really some great goals for ourselves. After I left that group, I did a couple of things, but I found that if I didn't have some sort of goals accountability group, I was starting to sort of drift off target, if you will. And so I founded Big Games Goals Group. And the Big Game Goals Group it's, you know, the title kind of says it all to me. It's about playing a big game. It's about playing, like having the life you want and not waiting for like nature's natural incremental changes and improvements happen, or just waiting to react to what's going on, you know, what comes your way. But instead really going out there and playing a big game. And the title, those two words actually mean two things to me. One is it's a game. It's fun. It's actually, a lot of people like, ooh, goals accountability, you know, I don't want to be responsible, or that's a little intimidating, or I don't want to tell people stuff, or, you know, whatever. And the way we do it, it's actually very supportive and very collaborative. But it's also a game. And because the game is that, hey, you know, we're going to go out there and we're going to shoot baskets, and we're going to see if we can make beat our best personal game so far. And so we're doing that, but we're doing it with our lives. And so even if we fall a little bit shorter, we're achieving things in our lives that we always wanted. And so we're playing a game. And so it's, to me, it's not as intimidating for some people when they're playing a game. And the other thing was sort of an inside joke for me. The people I was in that previous group with, there were a lot of insurance guys, very successful folks, but a lot of insurance guys and others. And there's the definition in the industry of whether you're going out there to shoot elephants. You get a few big elephants a year and you eat like a king, or if you prefer to go out and shoot little squirrels and critters and birds, and that's what that's what you do. And so for me, I only need a few clients a year because I'm an architect. I get big projects. Some people need little projects, or little client, smaller clients. And so this process works for both. And that's it. So that's how I founded the group. So anything else you want to go over, Elizabeth?
No, I think that was perfect.
Okay.
So, if you received the email to register and sign up for this, there were a few questions that we had in there really to start you thinking. So this would be a good time to grab a pad and, and a pen and to be ready, or if you want to do it on your phone or digitally. But we just want to be thinking now about the year and what we're trying to create. One thing as a context, we know that everybody on this call is a professional and that you kill it at creating and accomplishing goals. And I know that each of you could probably lead something on that in your fields. But I think something that's really missing in the nonprofit sector is balance and self-care. We will drive ourselves. We have great reasons to do that. And I wonder if it's really serving us fully, or even serving the people that we believe we're serving fully. And I have lots of great examples from my 20 years in the sector of people doing things that, I think ultimately don't work for others when they're not taking care of themselves. So really just asking yourself, and write it down on the piece of paper, are you killing yourself to kill it at work? And if that is the case, just take a couple of minutes to write down, what do you think are the things that are really drawing your time and energy at work? Things that feel like when you have to do even 10 or 15 minutes of them, maybe make you feel, they make you feel terrible. Or are there things that are constantly taking you out of what you see as like your purpose at work? Maybe you're doing something where working with clients is the thing that works best, but maybe you're constantly getting calls from other staff people or other consultants, or, things in your schedule aren't working, or, for goodness sake, if you had a bookkeeper, that would make it so much easier. I don't know what that thing is, but just take a couple of minutes to write down some ideas there.
Yeah, and I would also add into that, Elizabeth, what you feel like you're sacrificing in order to achieve your goals, or in order to work or keep your job or do your job or whatever that is. What do you feel like you're sacrificing?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if I don't know? What if I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything, but I would like to make more money?
That's fine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you don't feel like you're killing yourself at work, but that you're also not getting to where you want to go.
Correct.
Yeah. That may be answered by one of the following questions too, or asked by one of the following questions.
Yeah. And definitely either way, write it down, because I think it informs what we're doing.
Okay.
But so Kelly, I would actually suggest that most people will have something, because everybody has worked part of their job that they don't enjoy doing, right? Everybody's got something. So at the very least, when you're doing that stuff, you're sacrificing the stuff you would prefer to be doing, whether it's in your personal life or in your work. So I would argue it's still present.
I feel like it's one of those things that when we're done, I'll be able to circle back and see what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at the next question. Do you have a dream that's being neglected? I'll give an example of this for myself. When I first did Landmark, I was really at that time like working on personal relationships, and I was working on growing my business. Those were the urgent matters. I did not want to be thinking about anything else. I frankly did not have time. And as I was going along, like, there's this little voice in my head that was getting louder. It was like, music. And I was like, no, I don't want to think about that. And what was fun that came out of that was I ended up creating a concert for my church. Kelly provided some videography services for us several years in a row. And it really made a big difference. And then this week, for the first time, for the first time in 20 years, I'm being paid to sing. And so it's funny. It's not what I'm doing for a job. It's not going to go anywhere other than just, it's something that makes me really happy. So I encourage you to really look in those dusty corners of your mind for something that's been neglected.
Yeah, and some people get hung up on the word dream, right? So it could be just like, this is something I've always wanted to do, or this is something I used to do and I don't do it anymore for whatever reason. This is something I want to get back to.
Okay, just a few more seconds. I see some good writing here. So make me excited.
Why don't we have people look up when they're ready to move on?
Okay, let's look at the next question then. And if you can keep writing as we go along. This can be professional or personal. What's that one project that never makes it on your schedule? It could be something that you know could propel you to a new level in your business, but maybe you just don't quite know how to execute it. Maybe your schedule's already really filled with the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis for your business or organization. And so it just never quite happens. You know, I think for me, you know, I mentioned at the top of this, like having these webinars, Chris had been encouraging me for quite some time to do some events where we can have this type of engagement. And I was like, oh, I don't have time. And I just kept putting it off. And once we started, it was so much fun and so much engagement. And, you know, I get a lot out of it. I think people get a lot out of it. But that was an example for me of a project that never would make it on the schedule. Okay. All right. So I'll let you keep writing, but we'll move to the next question. So hopefully these have maybe led you to this question, or this might be some, you know, yet another thing that's kind of been lurking in the background. What's one thing that would make you more effective this year?
Is this like something that we could do or something we would do if we had more time/money?
Well, it could be a tool, like I need to get a new laptop. It could be as simple as that, right? It could be a skill, like I'm going to go get this training or this class. It could be, I need to make better contacts with people. It could be, I need more vacation time, right? I need to get away from living in my house, 24/7. So, what is it for you? Like everybody's will be different.
And I imagine from that question, Kelly, that it is something that it could be something that you don't yet know where the time or money would come from. I do
Right.
think that's why these things languish a little bit. I think it wouldn't be a big game if it was already everything we already knew how to do and we're doing it, right?
Right.
All right. So people look like they've finished writing, so we're going to move. So here, actually, we're going to stop sharing, and Chris is going to engage us in some conversation. So we'll stop looking at the slides and start looking at each other as human beings.
All right. So does anybody want to share anything that they came up with? It's not, listen, this information is yours. It's private. You don't have to share it at all. But if anybody wanted to share, what we find in the goals accountability groups is that one key component is that people share because it inspires others. It keeps us on track by declaring it. And what ends up happening is as we're saying it, we get more inspired, but also other people will have some really great ideas and will actually modify some of our ideas by what we hear from others. So if anybody would like to share one or two things briefly, that would be great.
Are we going in order of the questions that were asked?
No, I don't think so.
Anything.
Let's do a hodgepodge. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have anything you wanted to share, Kat?
Well, I can share sort of like what's been put on hold from a dream standpoint. So mine is mine is kind of twofold. I always want more time for reading and writing. But what I realized this past year in 2020 was it's not that I didn't have the time. I had these mental blocks. And so I am very type A. Like I am quite type A. So this first one actually was like a radical belief I came up with, which was I committed to the idea of not having like shame or guilt on having a did not finish file in like Goodreads.
Yeah.
And so what I decided was I was like, there's a million books I'm never going to get around to. If I've read over half of a book and I'm not feeling it, I read that book to my degree. I'm like, did not finish. That's my score. So that actually has freed up a lot of time for me to like commit to reading because I don't feel like I get stuck on these books. And I'm like, I don't want to finish it. I don't want the guilt of not finishing it. I put that one away.
That's great.
And it's a process now. And then with writing, I realized that my mental block was, and I think a lot of us do this, it's like, well, what do I have to say? Like how bold, imposter syndrome. But then I got to thinking and I was like, you know what? There are really only so many notes in a scale. There are only so many letters in the alphabet. And yet we continue to create music and books. Like maybe it's not that I don't have something to say. Maybe it's honoring that like my collection of experiences makes me equipped to talk about this from a different angle. And maybe that's worth hearing. So I still need to put the second one into more practice and get a little more brave. But those were the two sort of like dream things.
Awesome. That's really great. Well done. Well done. Another person, I think we have time for one other person to briefly share. Anybody have anything?
Share.
I can say something. Oh, somebody else?
Oh, no, go ahead. Who?
Sorry, I don't have my camera on, but it's Joellen. I just was saying that when you say more things like training, and I always feel like I can always learn more. You know what I mean? Like who can I contact to learn more? Because I'm not so great. And then probably also like learning more when I contacts, like following up, like I'm in a networking group, and I'm not really great at it, I don't think. So I'm just never really sure how to to get the most out of it, or what I can, I try, but I just don't know. I don't think I always ask the right questions. I'm more, I think, introverted in that way with strangers than extroverted, and so that pushes me to do more than what I am. I mean, I wish I could do better, I guess is what I'm saying. What I wish I could do better. So
That's great.
that's
That's great. All right, so really great. So these are really great places to start. And when we're in the goals group, we actually go through about a 2-week process at the end of the year to start, thinking about, not 2 weeks nonstop, but like starting to think about all those things, because it takes a while for us to kind of recall all those things that we wanted to do. When we're really young, the analogy I like to use is like a train. When we're really young, we're like 14, 15, 18, 20, whatever it is, and we're starting to put together what we think our life might look like. We essentially say, this is what I want to go do, but I only want to work hard enough to be able to go do all these other things, right? I want to hang out with my friends, and I want to go traveling. I want to not be under mom and dad's roof, and all this kind of stuff, right? And so we say, I'm going to get a job that's going to allow me to do all that stuff, all these different things. And so it's like a train. There's this engine that's a job. And then there's all these cars behind it with all the things of adventure and sports and, romance and, everything else, right? And somehow in our lives, the train morphs into being one that's all engines. Like maybe there's one car at the end in which we do all our non-work stuff, but the first 20 cars are engines, and our whole life is focused on work, work, work. How can I work better? How can I squeeze more time in? How can I squeeze more clients in? Maybe I don't have to sleep tonight. Maybe I'll go sleep, I'll sleep over the weekend, right? All this stuff. And what ends up happening is we put those ideas, those dreams further and further and further back. And it takes a while to recall them and bring them forth. So the benefits, of the goals group, of any goals group, is to eliminate some of the stress that comes out of life, which is kind of funny because when people hear goals accountability, they're like, oh, I don't need that stress of having to accomplish more goals, right? It's actually the opposite. You actually have a tool now to actually take that stress and put it somewhere and actually achieve more. And I think Elizabeth and other people who've been in our group would attest to that. And so people who are very hurried, if they feel like they never have enough time, they're rushing around, they're forgetting things because there's so much stuff going on. They're not having time with doing the things that they want. Their days are getting blended together. Like they can't, especially now with COVID, they can't tell a Thursday from a Sunday, because they're working every day and they're not working during, they're doing laundry during the workday and blah, 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 all that crazy stuff. There's an imbalance in their lives. And the whole point of a goals group is not to be, oh, how are you going to make more money? How are you going to work harder, right? It's really about getting a more balanced, holistic life. And so we're going to show something in a minute, which is how we start to put our thing together. And actually, why don't we bring that slide up, Elizabeth, the one with the areas of life?
Sure. Give me a moment.
So in our goals group, we start to put together the goals, our goals for 2021 or 2020. And the surprising thing is that, what we had, you don't have that slide up yet, right?
I do not. Give
Okay,
me
good.
a moment, please.
All right.
It's just, it doesn't want to come on my share.
That's fine. And I can share it if need be. There we go. Awesome. So what we start to do is develop all in different areas of our lives. We start to develop our goals, and we start really looking at how do we get more balance. And this is actually a slightly edited list here, just for brevity. But we really look at purpose, like what is our purpose in life? And part of a goals accountability group often is defining your purpose, not just your purpose at work, but your purpose in life. What you want, what meaning do you want to have? What is your mission? In areas of growth, right? What skills do you want to add? What knowledge, creativity, or adventure? The environment, health, mental, physical, right? Emotional areas, business and career, finances, and then personal. And personal goes from where do you get the balance in your life? And I think, Kat, you were saying, more writing would actually give you more balance, and that's really what you want to find a way to do. But it could be any of these categories here, right? Because those are all the really critical areas for us. If anybody wants it, we'll take the slide down, but if anybody wants a copy of that, I'm sure Elizabeth can send it to them. So you can take that down, Elizabeth. But thanks. So, what we do in the goals group is we really look at things holistically, and we first go through and we choose the things that we really want to have happen this year that will give us a rich life. And the way we do it is we don't talk about goals, right? If you go right to the goals, you're skipping a couple of steps. And what we actually do is talk about impacts. And we actually project ourselves forward to the end of the year. We actually say it's December 31st, 2021. Now, what did my year look like? What did this fantastic year look like? And so we actually start projecting like what would make a really great year. And then what we do is we do that in each of those little subcategories that we go through. And then we take that and convert them into actual measurable goals. So I'll give you an example of something I created this year. What I said is under adventure is that I wanted to learn and document different cultures. I'm a photographer in addition to being an architect. And so I really love taking pictures. And so I was like, I really want to travel, but I really want to go on an adventure, a place I've never been, and really document something, not like an anthropological thing, but maybe it's visiting a different city or going to certain kinds of events or something, but something that I could take photos of. And so I created that in addition to, I really want to spend more time with Julie, who's actually on this call. And I really want to spend, more time with my family and kids and, doing all sorts of things. And so I actually came up with the number of vacation days that I'm going to need, of which I'm dedicating a minimum of 3 days for purely a photography event. And it'll probably be more, but it's a minimum of 3 days. Now, I did this last year. And I said I was going to have 5 trips last year. And I did that during a pandemic. Now, I set that goal before the pandemic started, not knowing that we set it in December and then the pandemic really hit in March. And yet I still, not only did I accomplish the 5 trips, I had 6. And so I found a way by saying, I am going to do this. I actually didn't get stopped. And I said, I'm going to find a way to do it. The trips were different than what I anticipated, but I still did them. And so last year, I had a fantastic 2020 year in many ways. I achieved most of my goals, not all, but most of them. And the people in our group did too. We had actually a really good year. And we had people achieve really amazing goals, like they're moving to a different country. But more importantly, they are spending more time with their friends and family, which during a pandemic is no easy task. So I want to stop there and just hear what people are saying, what they're thinking. And Elizabeth, if you have any comments, if I missed anything so far.
Well, I definitely don't think you missed anything. I think, but it is true. We were talking before this call that, there were lots of horrible things in 2020. I've spent many a day crying at the computer. But on top of that, I had a great year last year. And in fact, because of so many changes that were going on, I'd hit most of my goals pretty early in the year and just kept adding new ones. And I think being part of an accountability structure and having people around me to help with that, it's really helped me to start to uncover places now in my blind spots. I feel like at the beginning of these processes, people are just throwing down all those things are in the back of their mind that they've been ignoring. Oh, that closet they wanted to clear out and this and that. And after a while, what starts to emerge is kind of like that real life you really wanted to create that was underneath that. And so, I think piggybacking on what Chris said, I've really seen people accomplish amazing things. Oh, and to Kat, something you said earlier I wanted to share was one of my goals for this last year was to write one bad song, because I realized that I kept wanting to write a good song, so I would stop writing because I was like, clearly that's not going to work out. And when I made the goal to write one bad song, I actually wrote 3. And then I started to share one with somebody, and then we started to look at oh, do we want to create some music together? So, that was really interesting. So I think you're totally on the right track with that as well.
Great.
I would say that that list really helped me. I came up with 2 goals that were buried deep, right? Because of course I went straight to work and money because that's how I
Of
am.
course.
And
Naturally.
but after I looked at that list, I realized I really want to start volunteering, and I have not found the time for it yet. And yet I can make time for that. You know what I'm saying? I just have to put it as a goal. And the other one was I really want to create a nice office space for myself. Right now it's just so crappy. So anyway, that I thought that was a very inspirational list, and I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, so let's do a quick exercise, and I'll give you a little bit more explanation about the exercise after we do it. So the exercise is we're going to count the number of purely free days that we had in the last year. So a free day is defined as no work of any kind, not a single email, call, just gotta, 1 second, right? All those things, none of that. Midnight to midnight, a full free day. Think about birthdays, kids' birthdays, holidays, whatever. How many free days did you actually have in the last 365 days? Or 2020, whichever you prefer. And just take a minute. Think about that. All right, does anybody want to throw out how many days they think they had last year? Totally free, not a single email, call, whatever.
48.
48. Well done. That's amazing. That's actually an unusually high number.
I only counted 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
Anybody
gonna
else?
go with you, Kelly, for 48.
I'm sorry, Julie, what was that?
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
2 to 3.
Well, and that's actually more common. So Kelly, hats off to you for keeping things really separated. This was actually, I've done a lot of self-development. This was actually the most sobering and saddening exercises I ever did, because I had realized that I couldn't remember the last time I had a full day off. It had been like 10 years. And not only did I work every day, but I worked on the day that my kids were born. While I'm waiting in delivery, I sent an email or just said, I'm at the hospital, whatever, right? Not a single day. The day we buried my father, I sent an email out. And so for me, it was like, what am I doing with my life? That is really crazy. And so I actually, this part of this program is actually comes out of a training by Strategic Coach, which we'll show you the resources at the end. And we went through it, and the following year, I took off something around 140 days. Yeah, because I really put in place, and it took a while, but I really put in place my goals and made the priority goal being my free days. And I filled those free days with goals around my personal life, not business. So I had to fill in, I had to create something there, but it had been absent for so long. It was really quite hard to come up with the different things. So that exercise for me is like that should be the number one thing that people work on. It's the hardest thing. We always seem to find better ways to work harder, don't we? We always find a way to add a tool or add a skill or find this, or find that. But when it comes to taking care of ourselves and having free days, we're not so good at it. And it's going to take a little bit to put in a structure. And I remember the first time I took off a weekend day completely, and I was lost. I had to ask my 8-year-old daughter, like, so what do you do all day? Like on a weekend, like, what do you do? And so it took a while for me to remember those things and create those things. So that's one of the impacts of being in a goals group. And And so what happens is you start to separate your life. And what you actually will find is that the more you segregate your work time, the more effective your work becomes. And you actually can make more money by working less.
Can I share really
Yeah,
quick?
please.
So I can't claim credit for this. A brilliant friend of mine many, many years ago, who was a copywriter at Leo Burnett, once told me, because he was always on trips, he was always taking vacation. And I was like, how do you do this? Mind you, I'm like new to the field, probably 22. And he goes, well, the better my personal life, the more I have to bring to my professional life. I am better when my personal life is good. So I prioritize it that way.
Yep.
And like, that's really sort of helped me think about, even with like an achiever mindset of like, I can't bring my best when I'm like, I haven't seen a vacation and I'm asking creativity to come to me under fluorescent lights for like every day of the year till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So that sort of helped me break my brain, if you will, from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really great. And that's one of the reasons, Kat, we say you have to have holistic goals. You know, you really have to broaden your whole life, because, you know, we all know the old saying, you know, if you don't have your health, you know, you can't do anything else, and you're going to be limited. Well, you know, that goes for emotional health, mental health, health of your family members, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you don't take care of all these things, you're not bringing very much to your business, you know, and especially in the American model of business life, where you get 2 weeks off a year, and the other 50 weeks you're expected to work. You know, that isn't healthy. And now 2 weeks a year, those weeks aren't 40-hour work weeks anymore, are they? And so we're really burning ourselves out. It's really crazy. And so we're bringing less and less to the businesses. And so they say, you got to work harder and harder because you're bringing less and less. It's insane. So what I would like, so I'm going to go over a couple of things here. And what I'd like to go over is really a couple of walkaways. And then and after I go over a couple of things here, I'd like to just open it up for a conversation. And I'd like to have that conversation be geared towards, how do you put something in place for yourself? Okay. So the first thing is, we're talking about is holistic goals. Like, it's really important to have holistic goals. The second thing is structure. So what do we mean by a structure? Structure is something that you can rely on that lets you not have to keep stuff in your head. That's one form of a structure. Structure is something where you have a backup for when you stumble and you don't achieve a goal, or you're not in the mode or the mood, that there's something that gets triggered essentially automatically to help you through it. So a goals accountability group is one kind of structure. Writing things down is a structure. Telling people your goals and having them help you keep track of it is a structure. So putting some form of a structure in place. Weekly calls might be a structure. There's all sorts of ways to do it. So it's really key to define the goals in a way that inspires you, and then to put a structure behind it. Now, that's what I really want to make sure people have before they leave today. So we're going to ask what kind of structures you want to put in place. Now, I want to tell you the secrets. All right, the secrets of what makes for good goals. So what's the difference between New Year's resolutions and goals? Right? Because they're kind of the same thing. And I don't have an answer for that. But I do know certain things. All right. So here's the secret that I have found that makes goals more attainable. Even crazy goals. And we have, in our goals group, we have one person moving to Thailand and one person moving to Australia this year. How's that? Right? Big goals that they created for themselves. The number one thing is to be vulnerable. You got to set yourself up that you might not succeed. You might be telling people about your goals and you might not achieve them. And you just got to be, the secret is to be vulnerable. And what's the cost if you're not? Well, the cost if you're not is that you don't put structures in place where other people will know what your goals are, and therefore you don't have the support. The other thing is, if you're not vulnerable, then you don't pick goals that are big enough, right? For the life you want for yourself. And so you'll get incremental improvements. You'll go from $50,000 a year to $52,000 a year, or you'll go from one 10-day vacation to one 12-day vacation, right? Those are good improvements. Nothing wrong with them, nothing to be ashamed about or anything like that. It's great. And what you really wanted was that 2-week vacation, you know, or two 2-week vacations, right? And you're not giving yourself the room to say, I'm just going to put it out there. And there's a thing that we use in our self-development called throwing your keys over the wall. It's like you have your car. If you really want to get over a wall, right? If there's something that's holding you back, a metaphorical wall, take your car keys and throw them over the wall, or throw your hat over the wall. Because if you're standing there facing the wall, there's no way to get over it. But as soon as your car keys go over the wall, you're like, okay, well, I got to get over that wall. I got to get the keys back. So maybe I'll call my friend Bob, who's really tall, or I'll have somebody heft me over the wall, or I'll go get a car and stand on the wall, or I'll call somebody on the other side of the wall, and you start generating ideas. So being vulnerable means you got to throw your keys over the wall. You got to say, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but damn it, I'm going to try. And that takes some vulnerability. So that's the biggest secret. The second one is integrity. So integrity has a special meaning. So a lot of people think integrity means honesty, and it doesn't, at least in our context. So honesty might be a subset of integrity, but it's not the level of integrity that we're talking about. So integrity is not a moral thing. And that's one of the ways it's really different from honesty. It's not moral. You either have integrity or you don't have integrity. It's almost always slipping out. So you always have to kind of rebuild it, right? But if you think about something like a bicycle wheel, if a bicycle wheel has some spokes missing, right, it's going to start getting wonky, right? You're not going to be able to ride on that bicycle wheel if it's got a bunch of spokes missing. It doesn't have integrity as a wheel. Now, it's not moral. It just doesn't have integrity. That's all it is, right? And as soon as you recognize you don't have integrity around something, you have to put something back in place. You clean it up and you move on, right? You recognize it instead of trying to ride on this broken wheel. That's how we don't get our goals, is because we're like, oh, that's not attainable. I'm not going to be able to make it. I can't figure this out, right? It's like, no, okay, I don't know how I'm going to have a second vacation this year. I got to sit down and figure it out. So that's one of the key parts. And then there's personal integrity. So why is personal integrity important? Not only do you have to have integrity in the systems around you, like your calendar has to have integrity, because that's the mechanism for achieving your goals. You have to have a written list of your goals that has integrity. But you also should have personal integrity. So the personal integrity, again, is not moral. It's I did what I said I was going to do when I was going to do it. I did it in a way that was expected of me. I did it in a way that was expected of me, even if I didn't say I was going to do it that way, right? Others expected it of me this way. Why is that important? Well, because what we get access to in the world in order to achieve our results, we get through other people, right? We can't even make a cup of coffee by ourselves. Somebody else has to grow the beans, and somebody provides the electricity and the hot water, et cetera. We get stuff from other people for everything we do. Having integrity opens up new opportunities and new access to people who are going to help us. If you've known people who don't have integrity, and when they ask you for something, you're like, ugh. And you don't go the extra mile for them. Integrity is an important element, not just for yourself. It propels you forward with your own energy, but it also is other people assisting you. And then one final thing, and then I'm going to stop, Elizabeth, and that is community. Community is really important to have around you to help you achieve it. So if you're going to put a big goal up there, like I'm going to go on 2-week vacations this year, then you should enroll people into that event. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go get a second vacation, or I'm going to go get this job that I've always wanted, or I'm going to find 2 hours a week to write, right? And you go to certain people, like, family members or, friends or whatever, and have them support you. So it's like, either they say, all right, you said you were going to write 2 hours. I'm locking you in this room, and you now have to write for 2 hours. I don't care if you just put 2 words on a piece of paper, you're writing for 2 hours. That's the kind of support that we need. We need people who will help us. right? And so the community is there to help you make connections, meet the right people, find the time, and they're there to be your back wall. Like when you feel like you're just like the winds of life are just buffeting you this way and that way, they give you the structure, the support to say, hey, no, you're going to be doing this now. And I'm behind you and I'm going to support you until you can support yourself again. And that's really, when you start building that kind of community, there's nothing you can't do. So I'll stop there. Elizabeth, do you have questions, or anybody have questions or thoughts? Any questions about anything?
I appreciated the vulnerability piece because I think that piece is so important, and I'm not good at it.
Yeah, nobody is.
So I recognize it.
Yet. Not good at it yet, right?
Yet.
So I've learned from my kids at school about a growth mindset. You just add yet at the end.
Yeah, Diana, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, being vulnerable, the potential for looking bad is enough to cause people to do almost anything, right? I mean, they'll do anything to avoid looking bad.
Or
They
nothing.
don't realize they're doing it, but they'll do it. What's that, Kelly?
Or nothing.
Or nothing, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they get frozen. Yeah, they get stuck. What else are you guys hearing?
It's one of those things that makes me wonder, like, how many people's lives, like, look back and, all those thoughts in their head of like blame, well, I never did this because of them or that was always in my way. And I really hear like that is like the soundtrack of like the walls against that vulnerability. Like they stop me from going out and saying, okay, I'm going to try this and I might look terrible. This might be a horrible song. This might be really bad. And, I think as you start to let go of those things and just say like, okay, I fell over, that didn't work.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue with that. And let me just ask, like, what do you guys want to create for yourself in 2021? Not necessarily, it could be specific goals, right? That would be great to share, really terrific. But it could also be like, what kind of structures do you think you might want to use? That actually might be a more beneficial conversation. Like, what kind of structures can we put in place to help us achieve our personal goals? What are you guys thinking about? Or what do you have questions about? Or what do you have, sorry, Lisa, what do you have as something that you've tried before and it didn't quite work, right? And then let's build around that. So Lisa, go ahead.
I think that the biggest aha from today, besides the fact that I think this should happen weekly, is that I don't think I ever take days off. I'm so afraid of getting behind that even on my 2-week vacation, I was clearing out my email so that when I got back, it wasn't overwhelming to me, because I don't like that feeling when I get back of all that in front of me. So I think in your structure that I need to make a rule about my phone and, putting it away at night or putting it away on Sunday. Now I'm transitioning into another career from my nonprofit into real estate, as my husband has been in a forced retirement and making it so that I'm the only breadwinner and I need to make more revenue than my nonprofit. So that 7-day-a-week thing is for real right now. And I need to figure out some boundaries so that I have those downtimes.
Well, and it's especially diabolical for you because your nonprofit probably, works Monday through Friday or something like that. And then the real estate's a weekend job.
Right.
Because people always want to see stuff on the weekend. It's diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Well, and this is a great example. So when you have a big goal like this, it's terrifying, right? Because you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make enough money enough, but all this stuff that gets cluttered in your head, right? And it's a lot of it's fear driven, right? And we get so tense. But what if you were able to be able to predict what the rest of this year is going to be like. And you knew where you were going to be at the end of the year. And you could then divide it down into whatever steps make sense. 52 steps for each week, or quarterly steps, or monthly steps, whatever that is for you. Like, I have to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and I should get my goal. And you did that not just like, okay, this is the income I need, but this is the training I need. This is the hardware that I need. This is the wardrobe I need. This is the, right, all these different things. And you really broke it down and said, okay, this is going to, okay, like, I'm going to go wardrobe shopping in the 3rd week of February, right? And you were able to put all of that into a calendar or some other way to keep track of it. What would that do for you?
Scare me to death. How many
Really?
things I have to do.
Yeah, probably. But here's what I would wager. I would wager that you're going to have that fear regardless. And that once you actually lay it out, what most people find is that at first they're like, okay, this is going to be a big year. And then they start working on it. Rather than, I got to keep working, I got to keep working, I got to keep working. And they do that for 52 weeks. Right? I can't work hard enough. I got to, while the water's boiling, to make pasta, I'm going to go just dash off that email because I got to keep working. I got to keep working, right? And it never ends. And it's like the wolf is at the door constantly. And that level of stress we're kind of used to. But if you had it all laid out and then you shared it with people and said, I need your help to achieve this, right? It's something. And this sharing with the community is really hard to do. It's not what we've been taught. We've been taught your problems are your own. Go fix them. Other people are too busy. Nobody's going to help you. You're all alone. And that's actually not true. Can be true. I mean, that's how we operate. So we have lots of evidence to that effect, but it doesn't have to be true. And what you can actually do is find people who get great joy out of doing the things that you're not good at. And that frees you up to do the things you really are good at. So, yeah.
One thing I've really gotten out of working with Chris is, I think what I'm hearing a lot in this call are, when I have something big to do, my default is to take it out of what I call like my health bucket. So it comes out of my sleep, it comes out of like my meal preparation of healthy food. It's like, just work later, just work harder, just do this. And by working with Chris, it's like I kind of lift my eyes up from the work and it's like, oh, and it's like the two things I feel like I'm always having to ask myself when I work with Chris is like, what structure do I have to implement this? So maybe I don't actually have to work more hours or harder, but really I just needed to have something in place. Or number two, what resources did I need? Like, do I need a bookkeeper? Do I need to ask someone to help with this? Is there a partner who can do this? Is there someone who wants to get into something and they want to try something and maybe that's where I get some help? Or, in the home front, are there people at home who could do more cooking or cleaning or whatever those things are that free you up to do something? So it's really helped me to realize that like working harder not only takes a lot out of yourself, but also isn't the most effective way to get there, because inevitably, like, I'm going to like crash the car on 2 hours of sleep or something. And, there's all kinds of ways that metaphor plays out.
Really great.
I feel like with big goals, one of the first things I always try to tackle is to demystify the unknowns, because your assumptions terrify you. And so, like, I've been shocked so many times where I thought something would be like 10 times more expensive and it's not, or like to, accomplish a course, I figured it was going to be like every waking hour and it was like 6 hours over the course of 3 months. And it taking sort of those unknowns out of the equation makes the rest of the goal so much more approachable.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it that when we have a big goal, the assumption is never, God, that'll be so easy, a piece of cake, so it's always like, it's always 100 times bigger than we think it's going to be. Oh, great. Let me go over the resources, Elizabeth.
Yep.
All right. So there's a couple of resources we recommend. So the Landmark Worldwide is where I've gotten some of my training, and they're really great at just like the whole integrity, building integrity in your life They are amazing at. In fact, other programs refer to Landmark. They refer people to Landmark specifically for that one thing. So if that's an area for you where you're like, there's something missing, look at that program, because almost inevitably you'll find something that's hugely valuable. There's a program for entrepreneurs. This is a Landmark is very cheap. I mean, the classes, you get a weekend for, several $100s. It's almost nothing. The strategic coach is a very expensive program. It's about $10,000 a year, but it is an amazing program. It takes people from 0 to 60 and very rapidly, but you have to have a certain income level and some other stuff. But I highly recommend looking into them. Dan Sullivan is the person who founded that program, and he's got several books and things like that. So that's a great program. But we were talking about structures. We were talking about building a community around yourself. And I think the organizations that use somebody like Elizabeth, and specifically Elizabeth, because I had to make her put this line in because it's really important. And that is that having a consultant like in Elizabeth or somebody like that to really provide your back wall, to provide the support, to provide the skill for people to do the things that they don't want to do or they're not as skilled at, and they're able to provide that for an organization or an individual is huge. So everybody should have a coach, and so that's what I recommend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in touch with anybody who is on this, obviously, if you've heard something from each other, if you want to create accountability with each other, feel free to chat out to each other. Chris, you could see his information here. There'll be a follow-up email too with some of these resources. And you can see my information as well. And thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I really wish all of you a fabulous 2021.
Absolutely.
Thank
for
you
joining
very
us.
much.
Thanks, you guys. That was great.
That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.